Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lush Foliage. So today I wanted to show you this beautiful fern that is growing in my syngonium pot. I am not very sure about the exact ID of this syngonium because there are so many varieties of syngoniums, a lot of hybrids coming up in the market, but this one is a very regular common variety that I had, and all of a sudden there was a fern growing in this. As you can see, it's putting out a new growth. If you're wondering what do I mean by voluntary plants, now in the world of gardening and agronomic terminology, a volunteer plant is a plant that is grown on its own rather than it being deliberately planted by a gardener or even for that matter a farmer. Now these plants that germinate on their own accord in the garden, these seeds may be already present in the soil, or they may be bought in by birds and animals, or maybe they are moved from another area in the garden as a result of a general gardening activity itself. For example, you might have taken soil from one part of your garden and you might have added it in the pot or probably somewhere else which already had seeds, and then automatically without your knowledge there is a new plant that is growing in your garden, probably in a pot that you have already planted another plant, and it is growing by itself. That is called as a volunteer plant. Now guys, always remember, whenever you have a voluntary plant growing, do not uproot it immediately. Let the plant grow into a good number, because this is just one strand. Second strand is coming up and it's going to take a very long time. Now I'm not saying that this happens very often. A lot of times you randomly start getting plants that you haven't purchased or you haven't sowed the seeds. For example, this plant, when I had purchased, probably there were some pores of the fern in this, and as and when I started to water, giving it the best care as possible, the fern kind of got in that environment that it wanted to grow, so it started to put out a growth. Now of course I cannot take it out right now because there is a high chance that it might go into a shock and it might start to dry out, so that's why I have left it as it is. Any which ways, it is complementing this syngonium very well with this one growth of the fern. Ideally ferns are very delicate, so I do not want to take a chance of uprooting it and putting it in another pot because my environment is very dry. So a lot of ferns don't respond really well to a dry environment. They prefer a very humid environment. That is something that is very essential for them. A high amount of moisture, humidity, a slight amount of moisture in the soil, organic soil. So that is what they prefer. So I do not want to take it out. Probably once it grows, let's say 8 to 9 strands like this, then probably I might think. Again, I'm not very sure. Apart from ferns, there is another flowering plant as well, which is a voluntary plant. I'm sure a lot of you might have got this plant. This is one of the voluntary flowering plant called as the periwinkle, or in Hindi they call it as sadabahar. This is one of the voluntary plant. Whether you put, even if you don't put the seeds, they just randomly start growing. Voluntary plants are ones that tend to grow without any care or without any attention. They just start to grow. You don't even sow the seeds. They just show up in your garden, and there are a lot of plants. This is one of the example, a very common example of a voluntary flowering plant. A lot of times when you buy plants online, if they come with soil, a lot of times these will start to grow randomly. I'll show you some more. I haven't even sowed the seeds, but they just show up. It looks absolutely beautiful, so I don't have any issue. I leave them as it is, and this has randomly grown in the pot. A lot of times this happens, so this is one of the most common example of voluntary plants. Again, here as well you can see a lot of seedlings. Probably this is also the sadabahar, so I'm not very sure how the seeds have ended up in this, but this is how voluntary plants start to grow. Over the period of time, they will start to absorb the nutrients and water. I will take it out later on, but as of now I'm just going to leave it as it is because it's quite small. I also have to water this pot, but you can see this is how voluntary plant starts to grow, and eventually they start to flower as well. So guys, that's all about it. I hope that you liked this video. If you did, please hit the like button, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep planting.